Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It feels like it has been a lifetime since I sat down and started a series of prep, and that's because it has been several months. I was just going back through all of my last year's 2025 data to see when the last time I even took a body weight was, and it was probably sometime back in like August. So it's been quite a while since I've tracked all of my nutrition data, especially. I still keep an eye, obviously, on all of my training, but to have very consistent, weight data, macros data, and training data, it's been a hot minute. So my last show was actually last year, Tampa Pro, which was showing up here on the week of the 28th of July. So I'm not sure if that's exactly when the show was, but it was around that time. So it's been about 7 months. In a week's time, it'll be about 7 months. So fast forward to February, I was sitting down to think about, am I going to compete this year? Do I want to compete? Is there any motivation to do that? And I think I'm such a competitive person that yes, I would definitely want to compete again. And I say that competitive with myself. I just want to see if I can continue to get better and improve. And I guess with that being said, I don't know that this was the most productive or successful building season. I know that I've made some progress. I know that much. I've got to get back in the lab here, hopefully in the next week or so that I've got some good baseline data. But my program has been hyper-focused. So if anyone has been following along on my training programs, I've got the Hyper-Focused Glutes series, and we're just about to launch a part 4. So I just finished 1, 2, and 3 over the last several weeks. I guess that's 18 weeks of training because they're all 6-week training blocks. And they have been very focused on the glutes and the shoulders. In fact, I have probably overdone my shoulder. I think I tweaked it a few weeks ago. When you can just start to feel it aching? I don't know whether, it could have just been me sleeping on it funny. I woken up a couple of mornings and my shoulder's just so angry. I feel like I'm just getting old. It's really? So I've had to take out quite a few of my shoulder exercises just this week just to give it a rest. But I don't actually think it's what I'm doing in the gym that's bothering it. I think it's where I'm sleeping. It's all mashed up, and so I've got to sort that out. I'll probably get a body pillow or something so that I can lay on my arm. Because I'm a side sleep, I lay on my arm out like this. And then, when you wake up in the morning and your whole arm's numb and you can't feel it. Isn't that the weirdest sensation? It's like you've just got this limb. It's not really, doesn't feel like it's attached to you. So that happens so often, it's not funny. But anyway, I digress. I sat down, I guess 10 days ago now, to work out when I wanted to compete. And for the longest time, I've been striving to do the Girl Power Show. The reason being, it's so close to me, it's an hour drive. It's Orlando based, so it wouldn't be a huge commitment for me to get there. I can potentially just drive home and sleep in my own bed, which would be a nice change compared to most of the shows that I do, which are all over the country. So I was doing some math and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm only just going to make it in time if I really start bunkering down right now. So I am going to have my work cut out for me. And again, these are loose deadlines, I think. My goal is to execute to the best of my ability, but I'm also not going to get on stage if, something's gone on with my prep and I wasn't able to commit to the cardio commitments, or I couldn't keep the deficit going, and, I'm not going to be ready. I'm not going to do that. And because there are so many shows, I will definitely have, I'll be spoiled for choice, basically. But I love doing the Pittsburgh Pro. I love going up north and getting on stage up there. It's just a big show. It's super competitive. And I like the idea of kind of getting up on stage against some of the best girls. It might not be the smartest strategy. I think a lot of people try to find small shows where they may have a better chance at actually, getting in the top 3. But I guess I'm not motivated in that way. It would be cool to do it fairly and get there by not going in small shows and going up against the best competitors. So yeah, I might be here a while. But anyway, I wanted to go through with you today, how I set up all of my goals for this prep. I want to go through my training volumes. I'll pull up the app and we'll take a look at some of those numbers. At some point here, I'll probably switch over from using my coaching sheets, which is what you're looking at behind me now, to the BiaFit app. So we have a test app in process, which actually is going to be a nutrition coach. So if for those that have followed me along for a long time now, you'll know that I am no stranger to developing apps, and I was previously involved with Carbon Diet Coach. So I was one of the founders of that company, helped implement the algorithm and promote that product. So I'm since moved on, have been bought out of my shares of that company, or at least am being bought out of that company. And my non-compete is finally, lifted. So I'm very excited to kind of get that out to you guys, because I think the nutrition coach is arguably more important, or at least something that's more desirable for folks. Maybe you can tell me, let me know in the comments, is the the nutrition thing that you're looking forward to, or is the training stuff more exciting? I have to imagine it's probably the nutrition. So at some point here, we'll switch over and I'll start doing my check-ins as a screen recording on my phone. But for now, until I'm happy with our final test product, then I can start sharing that with you. Anyways, I had to get myself on the scale, which was an unusual request since I really don't care for it over the time that I'm building. Not because I'm trying to avoid it or anything. It's just not that important. It doesn't really tell me a whole lot about my goals. I'm trying to build muscle, and hopping on a body weight scale doesn't really give me a whole lot of indication around what's really going on, which is much why I prefer to get on the B mode ultrasound, have my muscle thickness measurements taken, and it's a significantly more direct way to say very definitively, you have built muscle or you have not. So I'll have to do that here soon. So I hadn't taken my weight. I got on the scale the other day and I was a little surprised. So I was actually up at 139 or something to that effect. Which was maybe 5 pounds higher than I was anticipating on getting for my off season. But to be fair, I think I was maintaining the weight that I wanted to be in my building season, which was about 135, 136 for most of that period of time. It was just in the last 4 weeks, actually post Christmas, believe it or not, the New Year, Christmas period, Thanksgiving, that was that was a non-issue for me. I didn't really have any big blowouts or changes in body comp. It was just pretty normal. But with the uptick and the kickstart of the app in the new year, and we were running a challenge, and I was taking over a few roles within our company, or at least kind of stepping back in temporarily, onboarding new people, it's just meant that my time has been so limited, and the space where I might normally have time to go for a walk and get my cardio in, I've had to do meetings or tutorials, or I've just had some kind of, administrative task that I've needed to do. So yeah, I think I might have accidentally gone up 5 pounds, and that was not overly intentional, but I'm not going to complain about it because, again, having slightly higher body fat probably isn't a disadvantage to my training. If you've got more energy availability, more calories coming in, or at least, adipose tissue on your person to train or to pull energy from, it's probably going to lead to slightly higher quality workouts. So I hope that the 5 pounds did something for at least a 6-week period where I was sitting a little bit heavier. So in all that to say, I did a little bit of math here, and in order to get down to what I think I need to be on stage, and again, the last couple of years I've competed, so 2024, 2025, I've gotten on stage around 127, 128. Now, I do believe that I have put on muscle in the areas that I've been focusing on, which are the shoulders and the glutes, but it also might be, offset by some shrinkages in other muscle groups that I paid less attention to. So I don't know that my scale weight will differ, but I might physically look different on stage if, some muscles had atrophied because I've kind of not paid much attention to them, intentionally, of course, whereas others have kind of grown. So I think that this will still be pretty close to what I need to be on stage. But as we get closer, we'll certainly be able to tell whether I need to ramp it up a notch to kind of finish it off strong or kind of keep cruising through. So I guess to start with, the first thing that you need to do is when you're dieting is make sure that you give yourself sufficient time. And I'm just scraping in by a thread here. So my Girl Power show is on the weekend of the 27th of April. The show's on the 25th. So I've only got 12 weeks to be ready, and I would have liked to have been ready maybe 2 weeks ahead so that I can kind of just cruise in. So I'm going to be pushing right up until the week prior. So this will be a challenging prep just because I know what's going on in my business life and personal life, and I can't always prioritize my fitness and an aesthetic goal. Really, that's what it is. So do my best. And if I make it to this show, I'll be thrilled because I've been trying to do this one for 2 years now. It hasn't ever worked out. It's always I need 3 extra weeks to be ready, which is usually when I go and do the Pittsburgh Pro. So I'm starting off with a weekly rate of weight loss of just under 1% of my body weight. So you can pick a range of different percentages or percentage targets per week. Once we start to try for weight loss greater than, say, 1.5% of your body weight each week, you start to compromise or potentially compromise the integrity of your lean tissue. There are certainly caveats where that weekly rate of weight loss could be more aggressive, and that would be in instances that somebody has a much higher body fat percentage, so their risk of losing lean tissue is arguably less. So there are certain edge cases where I wouldn't, I would give somebody a higher weekly target, but they've also got to have the ability to keep and maintain that deficit. This is all a big math equation, and sometimes the calorie deficit that's required to achieve that consistently week over week over week week means that the person's calories are way too low, or if they're willing to stick to low calories, it's the exercise requirement to keep them in that deficit that's just not realistic or not sustainable. So, and ultimately, that combination of too aggressive of a diet and far too much activity is usually where people kind of plateau, and that's when they finish their diet. That's the end of the fat loss phase. And the only way to kind of break through that is to add more muscle, which is why these building phases are so critical. So I'm going to go in around 0.7% of my body weight each week. So that means it's going to be just under 1 pound, or at least that's the goal. I actually need to go and get on the scale and see what I am today, as I don't have a whole lot of weight data for this week. Again, I've just been busy, but I'll try and get at least 3 weigh-ins each week. I might have some more time and just remember to do it in the morning on the weekend. So 1 pound or just under each week, and that should get me in right around this timeline. So that's the outline, the trajectory. I should probably go ahead and put in these other shows that I'm planning on doing too. And then from a nutrition standpoint, let's pop over and have a look at this sheet. Let me scroll down and find the current date. Here we go. Okay. All right. So my starting targets. 1552. So there is an equation that I use to calculate the deficit. It's very specific. If you scroll back to 2018, you'll find that equation on my YouTube. I won't go through it with you today, but basically it's a formulation that we use to come up with our nutrition coaching app. So I based that upon what I thought were my maintenance calories. So it's been interesting to follow or adhere to these calorie targets, because what I thought my maintenance were probably actually quite a bit higher. I assumed, again, I don't track in my own building season anymore. It's just the period of time where I'm focused and dieting for shows, it takes it out of me. It wears me down. I have done 2 decades of tracking macros every single day of my life, and I got very good at it, and it was very informative, gathered a lot of information, really great data. It's an awesome skill to have practiced, but it's gotten to the point where now I don't feel like I need it, and I can very much mindfully eat and maintain and still build a really impressive physique. So without actually tracking my data, I made a rough estimate that maybe I was eating on average 1,800 calories. And so I used that to kind of set my deficit. So it's going from 1,850 down to 1,550. So I'm creating a 400 calorie deficit here, or 300 calorie deficit, I apologize. My math is not mathing. So, but that being said, when I started trying to hit these numbers, I quickly realized, I'm like, there is no way I was only eating 1,850 calories for my off season, because this is so ridiculously hard. I think just my coffees in the morning, I was putting my creamer in. I'm like, damn, I was using 100 ml of creamer in my coffees, and I would have 2 of those in the morning to get me through the day. I'm getting to 4 o'clock, at least the first couple of days, tracking again. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, shit, I've already eaten all of my calories. This sucks. So yeah, knowing what I have been eating in my off season, I definitely was maintaining on a higher calorie target. But here's the catch. I was also a little bit more active as well. So I think just in that last 6-week period where I've kind of gained, 5 pounds, my average steps, I have to assume, probably went from 10,000, 8 to 10,000. I was consistently still getting up and going for a walk. I'd take Ray for, she didn't do the whole walk, but she'd do half of the walk, and then I put her in a stroller and I would keep walking because I needed to do about an hour, and she's too small and she's a sausage dog. She can't walk that far. So we'd go for our walks most days, and the weather was warmer. It was inspiring and motivating to get outside. And for that 6-week window, I just felt myself not wanting to go outside. It was too cold and life was really busy. So it was a couple of things shifted pretty suddenly. I'm sure that my weekly energy expenditure dropped by probably, I'm going to guess, over 1,000 calories, because I stopped walking. My average steps was probably close to 2,000 or 3,000 a day, which is literally me just going down, taking the dog to go to the bathroom, walking myself back up and just going around here. And if I went to the gym that day, the few steps I might do getting from my car into the gym. So it was not a whole lot at all. It's super sedentary for 6 weeks. So I know exactly why my weight crept up by a few pounds. But yeah, it was interesting to see, when I started tracking again, I was like, yeah, there's no way I was eating 1,850 calories. I was eating a lot more, but yeah. There we go. Lessons learned. So I wanted to, let's go through and have a look at these targets. So how did I come up with 125? How did I come up with 155? How did I come up with 48? So to start off with, the protein component is honestly by far the most important. Now, you'll see a lot of people online and even in research, various researchers will utilize an equation that relies on your total body weight to calculate protein. I personally prefer to use lean body mass to calculate your protein because it more closely aligns with the tissue that actually uses protein. Our adipose tissue has very low protein turnover. It doesn't have a whole lot of need for protein. The tissues that actually use protein are our enzymes and our hormones. We use protein for our immune function. We use it for other structural proteins. Of course, tissue recovery and repair, like all of those are the types of things that are demanding protein. Of course, our muscle mass. It's simply not adipose tissue. So the downside of that is if you use a calculation for protein that is looking at your total body weight and you have a high body fat percentage, it often overestimates the amount of protein that you really need. And the issue that I have with that is, number one, someone that's come from a background of disordered eating, I don't want to impose any targets on anyone that are unnecessary, especially when most people already struggle to get a high protein diet in, and we're already being told, don't eat this, don't eat that. There's so much fear around carbs and fats, this diet culture. So I want to make sure that, I'm giving people targets that are actually appropriate for them. And that offers people a bit more flexibility then. If you haven't got these disproportionately high protein intakes, you've got enough left over for carbohydrate and fats, which play a very important role from a performance standpoint as well as function. So, for women, I predominantly work with females 35 to 70, and especially as we're kind of moving through menopause, we need dietary fats. We need those to help in the production of our hormones. And I've seen so many women come in who have been told, eat your protein, like don't you dare miss a day of protein. And their numbers are really, really high. And then I'll have a look at their fat intake and it's like 35 grams per day. And they've been doing this for a couple of years. And, their hormonal function is terrible. We've had blood work done and, everything's outside of the normal reference ranges. And just simply adjusting or reintroducing some more dietary fats, especially our omega-3s, omega-6s to a lesser extent, but they're both important. There's such an important role for dietary fat in our diet. Fat-soluble vitamins, for example, hormone production, prevention of gallstones. I had a story, maybe I've shared this with you guys before, so I'm being redundant, just move past this. I had somebody tell me they just started using tirzepatide, fat loss, and this person was overweight, or actually they were obese. So it was probably a great decision for them medically to, assist with fat loss. Also start some behavior modification. Let's look at some nutrition intervention. But they didn't want to go down the route of getting some professional support. They just used the drug, did it on their own, and it was medically being managed by their physician. But not a whole lot of nutrition, advice. And I found out that this person was rushed to hospital, excruciating pain, in their abdomen. They ended up having gallstones because their dietary fat was so low. This person just omit fat from their diet because they didn't know. It's not their fault. They just weren't told. They were like, oh, I'm not eating. This is great. And they had to have their gallbladder removed. So, I heard of wild stories. And, it's great that we have these drugs that can help suppress appetite. And, there are so many cases where it's so important for these people to get healthy quickly because they have a cohort of different comorbidities, but you have to do it the smart way. So fats are important, which is, again, going back to why I'm talking about this in the beginning, is setting protein accurately. So I have used, I think I'm at probably 2.5 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass for me. I generally use the range, I guess you guys are mostly American that are listening to this, 1 to 1.3 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. You'll have heard higher numbers when it's referencing total body weight, but again, I'm using lean body mass as the predictor here. And then for anyone in Australia or anyone uses metric system, 1.8 up to 2.9 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. And for anyone that's over the age of 40, I recommend, just as an insurance policy, stay in the upper third as often as you can. It doesn't need to be an exact number every single day, but stay in the upper third and stay in a range just to help prevent tissue loss. We do become less efficient at or less able to utilize the amino acids that we take in from protein with aging. It's like a metabolic deficiency that we have, unfortunately. So we do need a little bit more protein with aging, but it's not significant, that's for sure. I think the best stimulus that we have for muscle is the work that we're doing in the gym, and less so about the, huge quantities of protein or leucine that we have in our diet. So 125 is going to be my number. And then I've just picked a couple of numbers there for carbs and fats. That's honestly less important. I personally err closer towards more carbs for training just because of the type of work that we're doing. It's highly glycolytic. It demands carbs, good fuel source. And, if I need to, depending on what's going on, I might flip those around from day to day, just depending on what food sources I have access to or what I want to eat. Oh, sorry. There's no right or wrong when it comes to those carb to fat ratios, but I do try to prevent going down below 30 for fats for the reasons that I just described earlier. It's a little challenging when you're competing because you got to get aggressive if you've got to get lean, but generally speaking, I would not go below 30 grams of dietary fat. So that's my nutrition. What else can I share about with you here? Okay, my training program is 4 days a week. I'd like it to be 5. I just don't have 5 days to train. I do 4 days and they're quite long, like usually between 8 and 10 exercises. So I guess with that being said, we can probably go and have a look at some of the data that I've tracked for this past week. And by the way, guys, if you want these coaching sheets, they are available as a free resource on my website. So I don't know whether it's this exact iteration, but they're pretty similar. You'd need to have Excel or something like that on your computer. I personally use Google Sheets. That's how they were created. But yeah, you can download these for free. All you do is pop in your name and your email, and then we send it to you. So as you can see, I only have 3 weigh-ins from my first week. There are some 139.4 numbers at the beginning of the week, and I had dropped down to 137.4 by the following week. So just real quick, let's see what my actual change score was here. 2 pounds. I dropped exactly 2 pounds. So that's a good start. It's probably more aggressive because I had such a big whoosh effect at the beginning. I did disproportionately pull back my carbohydrate intake. So because I would have had a lot of glycogen storage, probably walking around fully glycogenated, I was hungry, I was eating what I wanted and training really hard. So when I took away those carbs, there's obviously going to be a big movement of glycogen out of my muscle tissue. So they're not getting replenished anymore. And of course, with the carbohydrate that's stored in your muscle, there's also water. So quite a big whoosh effect at the beginning, and it kind of has slowed down pretty quickly, actually. So the first big week of drops, I don't know what I am, and it's Friday, so I haven't taken my weight since Sunday. I should probably do that here in a minute. So with that being said, let's have a look at my tracking. You can see here throughout the first week, I'm just highlighting this week of data. My average protein intake came in at 116. My average carbs came in at 155, and my average fats came in at 48. And it was a good week of calorie compliance. But what can you see here? So this protein number, she's down at 93. So not my best week, not my strongest week. I know, just getting back into tracking again, I was like, I'm so used to having like another gigantic meal at the end of the day, which is where I would probably get more protein. And I was already out of calories. So I was like, well, looks like I need to make some changes to what I'm doing earlier in the day because I don't have that extra meal to carry me anymore to get my, 125 grams of protein. So this week I am honestly not doing a whole lot better looking at my numbers. I'm going to have to make some improvements for the weekend and get my protein back in. So I'm just mad at it, I like eating the way I like eating. So I'm pretty good first week. I will say it was just hard getting back into the swing of tracking. And I will say I definitely felt hungry. Like the hunger was redonkulous, much more than I was anticipating. I think some of the strategies that I use, first and foremost, are switching back in some high volume fibrous foods. In my off season, because I've got more flexibility with my calories, I still have probably 2 high fiber meals per day. It's usually my lunch and my dinner have a good amount of fiber. It's either salads or some veggies on the side, and then whatever it is that I want. If it's mac and cheese, I'll eat it, but I have it with a salad. Or if I want something else that's a little bit more decadent, more calorically dense, I'll eat whatever I want, but I'll have it with some veggies or something. So there's always going to be like an interest in getting those vitamins and minerals in and fiber. But now I've had to kind of pull out some of those more calorically dense meals. I'm like, so I'm just left with a salad. This sucks. So yeah, it's been a challenging week, that's for sure. So I have gone back to some of my big voluminous salads. I've got lots of these over in the app. In fact, I can probably screen share this with you guys right now. Where are we? Here's the nutrition. I have hundreds of recipes in here. I think, let me see if I can find this is the avocado chicken salad. You guys probably can't see that picture. It's probably a little bit small. Yeah, it is. This avocado ranch chopped chicken salad is so good. It's a pre-made big baggie. I think is it Allen's Farm? I'm probably saying the wrong name.
That's true.
I bet you I've got half of it right. But anyway, you can get them from Publix, you can get them from Walmart. They're pre-made and they all of them have different flavors and little fillings. So I use that as the base, and then I put in a bunch of extra cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever veggies I've got floating around, peppers. And then I am a girl that loves her Chick-fil-A sauce. So I will do Chick-fil-A sauce of some called either the Polynesian one or just the regular. And then I'll do some kind of protein to it. So I've done this with beef this week. I've had it with breaded chicken. Oh my gosh, it's so tasty. It was like fried chicken, kind of like Chick-fil-A chicken. I've had grilled chicken with a really delicious ranch seasoning. I found this ranch seasoning, which is a lower FODMAP. I guess the onion was the last ingredient. I'm still dabbling with my IVS. I'm like, no, you can do this, Folly. You can do it. So I'll have a little bit of garlic and onion here and there. And it depends what else I've eaten throughout the day. But anyway, this ranch seasoning was so good. So yeah, I just grilled up my plain chicken. I did a kilo of chicken this week and just shaked over the ranch seasoning. And I was able to use it. We did burrito bowls. We did this kind of stuff. It was really good. So yeah, that's one of my favorites. But we have hundreds of recipes in the app, and you can actually build out a daily meal plan. So I've got a few random items here, my favorite protein bars. I'll just kind of track that loosely. This is all in preparation for actually having the nutrition coach and the food database, by the way. So yeah, anyway, let's go back to my coaching sheets. So yeah, bringing back in some voluminous foods has been helpful, and the brain loves predictability and stability. So if you are somebody that is not eating regularly, or you don't have a good routine, every day is a little bit different. Sometimes I eat breakfast, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I eat lunch, sometimes I don't, or the timing's always different. When you start dieting and you've taken away calories and there's this sense of urgency around food, it's nice to have that stability. So if you're not somebody that's following a bit of a structure, I eat this time, I eat at this time, at least at this time, at least that gives your brain the confidence that it's okay. You're going to get a meal in a couple of hours. So I've had to kind of learn to let go of this fear of the hunger. It's you're going to get a meal in a few hours and it's going to be good. So definitely have that schedule. That's super important. And I think it's also super important if you want to maintain a healthy relationship with food, don't eliminate all your favorite foods. You hear, I see on Instagram so often people are just why would you eat that when you can eat this? And alternatives to your favorite foods are great, but don't just discard the full fat, fully loaded versions of your favorite foods. Try to work them in as often as it makes sense for you. Otherwise, what ends up happening is when you get to the end of the diet and you've restricted all of your favorites, your cookies, your treats, your sweets, your ice creams, whatever it is that you like, they've moved so far up the totem pole in terms of hunger and excitability. It feels uncontrollable around those types of foods. There's such a mental tug of war, and you don't want that for yourself. You want to maintain a healthy relationship with foods. At least that's what I try to do. So on a regular basis, still include those, decadent fun things. If you like sweets, or you've got a dish that is typically, quite high in fat. I know I'm a big fan of creamy dishes and pesto and, that kind of stuff. It doesn't fit my macros very well. So I'll often kind of water it down a little bit with fat-free creamer or something just to extend the dressing, make it go a little further, keep the calories a little lower. But I will still give myself the real deal, at least weekly, just to make sure that I, maintain that healthy balance with my food. So that's that. What else can I share with you? I'm looking at this week's data. I'm doing a good job with my calories this week. My protein is actually a little bit lower. So I think one of the reasons for that is I usually use, just as a bit of an insurance policy, the Fairlife protein shakes, and I ran out of those in my first week, and I have not had a chance to open up my Amazon. I think this would be easy to do. I haven't ordered my protein shake, so that's usually just a quick and easy, mid-afternoon while I'm working, just neck a protein drink instead of going and sitting down and having a proper meal. So that's probably where I could regain some more protein. But yeah, that's how I'm doing so far. I need to get on the scale this week. I'm guessing that not a whole lot has happened. I feel like I've been really inflamed and just swollen this week from training. I've only got 3 workouts in this week so far. My goal would be to get another one in over the weekend, but I'm actually having CO2 on my eyes in about an hour. So I think that I'm going to look like a red raccoon. Oh, So that's going to be fun going to the gym. And I don't know whether I'm allowed to exercise. I think I am. It's certainly not an invasive thing like a surgery. So I'm probably allowed to exercise tomorrow, but they might just say don't get too hot so that it increases all the swellings. I think it does cause a lot of swelling around your eyes. So you know how I had the upper left? The scar lines are still prominent. I haven't really dissipated very much, and I wasn't really very happy with like the way that the stitches were. I've seen people message me like, oh, I'm getting mine done next week, and then they've shared their pictures with me, and their scar line was like perfect. Like I don't know, like maybe it was like glue or something. Like their line was perfect. Mine looked like the biggest hack job of like stitching I've ever seen. I was like, oh, I wonder if that's gonna look weird when I get done, and it has. I can see like, you know, it's very rough. So I'm a little bit disappointed. So now I'm having to have CO2 over that area just to help fade the scar lines. I've got that today. So I'm optimistic that I'll get my next workout in, but I'm certainly not going to be able to film anything, I don't think, for the next 5 days. So my content's going to be a little bit until that's healed. And then I'm going to do cool peel. I've never had this stuff. Cool peel on my face. So I think I'm going to look like a red lobster.
It's like it's frozen or something.
Oh, this. I got a Botox.
But I've seen the afters and it just tightens and rejuvenates your skin. And I think I had lots of hyperpigmentation. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. I should do it before and after. So I can't wait for that. From a steps perspective, I am struggling. Thankfully, the weather's getting a little bit nicer here in Tampa. There was a week where, I guess for us, I know there's people from the north that are listening to this and they're like, shush, Holly, we have minus something. It only gets down to like 27, 28 here in Tampa in the colder parts, which for anyone from Australia, that's like minus something. It's still cool. We don't get the snow, but it's cold enough to be a massive deterrent from going out for a walk. And I don't like taking Ray out either. She's little and I just feel bad for her. So I just don't go. But my steps have been really low. So 5.3 were my averages for the last week. This week I've made a couple of concerted efforts to get some movement in. And then this weekend, especially if I'm not going to be able to get one of my lifting sessions in, I will be doing a nice walk, maybe to like one of our favorite brunch spots, which is at least a 60-minute walk, and we'll probably walk back if it's a nice day. So I know we'll be able to get a few steps in. The last thing that I wanted to show you was my training volume, and then we can probably wrap it up here. All right, so I'm looking at the BiaFit app. So I'm doing this hyper-focused glute program that you can see here. One of the cool things about this is that when you open up your app, you can obviously read the description. It gives you a bit of an overview of what the program is, but most importantly, shows you the muscle group breakdown and how many times you're hitting that muscle group each week. So you can see here, my glute max is getting 7 exercises per week, which means it's getting about 21 sets. If I look at I usually write 3 sets per exercise. I'm doing 5 glute medius exercises. So I'm probably getting in about 15 sets of glute medius work. So those are my glute volumes, and then my quads are also getting in about 21 sets too, and that's probably just by default because some of the movements that I'm using to hit my glutes are also quad based. So that's the muscle group breakdown. But if we have a look at the analytics here, I've got a few different programs that I've had to open up for various reasons. So you can see we've got a new post-breast augmentation program. Basically is once you're at that 6-week mark where you've had your surgery and you've been given the okay to go back to the gym, this is the program that you do. It basically eliminates anything that kind of puts your chest in a stretch or lengthened position. So it basically eliminates all chest and back movements, and it focuses on the lower body. So it's like a return to exercise. So that's been a fun one for a lot of clients that have got either having their breasts redone or done for the first time. But anyway, I digress. Okay, so if I were to look at my screen here, if I scoot you all the way back to week 1, you can see I started with a whopping 100,000 pounds of volume. We break it down by upper and lower body. So you can see here my lower body is obviously getting majority of the work in this program. 85% of the work, at least in this week, was lower body. And then again, it breaks it down by upper and lower. And you can see how many pounds of volume you're doing each week. And the goal is to improve week over week. You want to add a little bit here and there to see if you can bring those numbers up. So that was my volume in week 1. Week 2, I jumped up to 145,000 pounds. I remember that being a very solid week, first week of January. Probably when I just started eating more food and doing less cardio. So some really good workouts there. It dropped back to 130,000 pounds. This week I was traveling and I know that I was using different machines. So it's probable that the load distribution isn't really a fair comparison here. If I go to week 4, I think I actually missed a couple of workouts that week. This is the week that we launched our app and a challenge. So by that volume volume was low. I just didn't get to the gym. Simple as that. And then this is this past week, so 141,000 pounds of volume. So yeah, you get a lot of data with your training. Of course, if I wanted to look at another program that I've done, I can kind of pop over here and take a look there. These are just kind of template ones. This is one of my other programs. This is the Hyperfocus Part 2. So just for comparison, again, it's you can't really compare between programs because the exercise selection are always going to be different. If you've got more compound movements in another one, you can load those up quite heavy relative to like isolation movement. So what you're wanting to compare are those week-to-week changes within a mesocycle. So that's how that works. So yeah, that's basically how I've been going. My goal will be I've got to write a new program this weekend and launch that next week. So we'll have the Hyperfocus Glutes Part 4 since I'm finally at week 6. And yeah, I think that's probably it. If you guys have got questions, please, by all means, drop them in the comment section. I'll also maybe next week show you some of the pictures of like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 of like the cool peel, because I do that on my face, and then the CO2 laser around my eyelids. So I don't know what it's going to look like. I just hope that it's nice because I'm going to look scary, I think, for the next couple of days. I need to get quite a lot of puffiness happening. So that's been on my list of things to do for a while. I would love baby smooth skin. I feel like as I've gotten more stressed over this like last 6-week period, you just like, I'm nearly like 40. I'm 37 in 2 weeks. But anyway, close enough. It's due to acne. Like, I'm just like, is this just going to continue to happen until like I'm a leisurely lady who's fully kept and taken care of? I think my stress and my hormones just cause like so much. It's just breakouts. I'll have like periods of like 6 months where my skin is just grey, cruisy. And I know it's because of my stress levels. I'm like, how can I manage this better? I don't think there's anything that I can do. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. I hope you guys have an awesome week ahead. I hope that your training's going well. If you want to get access to the BiaFit app, you can do so very easily. You don't have to commit for long periods of time. If you just want to try it, reach out to me. You can actually buy our programs on the BiaBody website. Let me show you that for a quick second. All right, so coming over to the BiaBody website, if you purchase any of these Excel spreadsheets, so these are downloadable, so this isn't something like my app, it's just a spreadsheet with the video demonstrations. You can still track your volume in these. So these are the programs that I had been using outside of having an app, and all of my programs are on here, including the Hyperfocus. But I will give you a trial access to the app if you want to see it. If you don't want the commitment of a subscription, I get that, but you'd like to have a tinker around and see if you enjoy like all of the cool features, the flexibility. If you're training or traveling abroad and you need to swap things out, it's done for you. Like, it shows you all of the exercises with the same primary muscle group of the movement you're trying to switch out. It is so flexible. I have had so many people say to me, this is by far the best app that they've ever used for training. And it goes through everything, and hopefully the nutrition is going to be better than any of the marketable, the ones that are on the market now too. So if you want to buy or try the BiaFit app, you could do that without the commitment by purchasing one of these programs. So I don't know what day this video is going to be going up, but I will be keeping an eye out. I think probably, let me have a look at my calendar here. I'll give you guys until the 20th of February. If you're watching this video like next week, I'll give you to Friday the 20th to get free trials. So any purchases that come through, I will honor that. Or you can just go straight to the BiaFit website and you can get the app and get a subscription. We've got lots of different options and different tiers of programs. And as soon as the nutrition one is ready, that's just going to roll right on into it. So I can't wait for that. All right, guys, I hope you have a lovely week and I will see you in my next check-in.